Hello, welcome to the Nourishing Conversations podcast. I'm Nicole Rascal. I'm a local journalist here in the south of France.
And I'm Christine Kilberg, and I work as a nutritional therapist and teach classes in Pilates and Extend Bar down in the south of France.
We've worked together for a few years. She was my health writer on a magazine that I edited, and we've decided to come together and bring you some of the amazing people here locally who've created businesses, whether services or products that are fabulous for the health, because nourishing is not just for your body, but it's also for the mind, the soul, and even the planet.
So we're going to try and create a balanced approach to all the people that we have on the podcasts and introduce them to you, both those in the south of France, but also those a bit further afield, so we get a really broad range of people.
And tell us what your specialty is.
I'm a registered nutritional therapist, and I love working with detoxification and supporting hormone health, as I feel that just getting the fundamentals right can make such a difference to optimizing your health. What about you? What's your specialist?
Well, I've been a luxury lifestyle journalist for a while, but my true passion is nutrition, and I'm a certified culinary nutrition expert. And we have wonderful chats about nutrition and what affects the body and different vitamins and minerals and all sorts of things. So we thought this would be a good platform to bring you all of these things that we enjoy talking about ourselves.
And if you have any suggestions to people you would like to hear about, then please send them along to us.
Yeah, because we would love to meet more people and also help promote them as well, because that's important too. And it's important for us to help small businesses in addition to people who are just doing well for the world. So
sharing is caring.
Yes, it is. So enjoy. We hope you enjoy our guests as well. Welcome to our first episode of Nourishing Conversations. Today is 22 February 2022, so maybe an auspicious day to begin. So, our very first guest is Elsa Carpenter, originally from Wales, who has created a booming business here in the Riviera for her extremely high quality and nutritious microgreens. Within a matter of months of starting her business, she had repeat customers and chefs ringing her off the hook. So, without further ado, welcome the creator of Nursery Greens, Elsa Carpenter.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. So tell us what inspired you to get into microgreens.
I've always enjoyed being outside in the garden and growing fruit and vegetables, but that really kicked off when I bought my own house 3 years ago and also had my first child, and having access to organically grown, homegrown produce became really quite important to me. And from that, I started to become aware of indoor farming and vertical farming, which can be a more consistent way of growing produce for yourself at home. Microgreens I was first introduced to through a friend who was running a similar business down here, and when she decided to go traveling with her family, I saw the opportunity to pick up where she was leaving off and started the nursery last spring.
It's absolutely wonderful. So for people who are new to microgreens, what are the biggest nutritional benefits that you might get from them?
Microgreens really are just a small version of a plant that, if you left it to grow to its full potential, would become broccoli or kale, radishes. So they're just a miniature version. What makes them nutritionally interesting, if I can use that phrase, is that they've been scientifically proven to contain a much higher concentration of the nutrients, the essential vitamins and minerals that we find in fruit and vegetables. It's just much denser in microgreens.
Is that compared to sprouting? It's much better.
They're different. They offer different benefits. Sprouts are grown in water and are much quicker to grow and harvest, so can be preferred to some people because they can grow their own kind of crop in 3 to 5 days, whereas microgreens are, say, like a step or two beyond sprouts. And they require a growing medium, soil or coconut coir. and a bit more time and effort. And they aren't really eaten in the same way. So sprouts give you a bit more crunch because you eat the whole plant. You eat the seed, the root, and the stem, I guess. Whereas microgreens, you cut above the soil and you just eat the leaves and the very fine or delicate stem.
Thank you for making that clear distinction between the two.
Yeah, and
think
it's interesting because I went and interviewed Elsa at her growing garage, and it's amazing just to see the flat of, she has this flat of dirt and grows these seeds, and it's just amazing how uniform, and you said that you have tricks and of ways of putting weights on them to make sure that they grow evenly, and then you can just snip across. So it is really quite different from the sprouts.
A really satisfying thing to see, because I say it takes a little bit longer than sprouts, but really it's a very quick turnaround. I can have a crop within 7 days to 2 weeks, really, depending on what I'm growing. So I could sow my seeds on a Monday, and by the following Monday, I've got hundreds of mini plants ready to cut for one of my mixes.
Wonderful. And if we get back to the nutritional benefits, I really love the fact that the microgreens have a compound in them called sulforaphane. Not everyone might be clear about sulforaphane, but it's a very potent antioxidant that can help with many, many different things. And I work a lot with clients, especially around detoxification and supporting estrogen metabolism, where sulforaphane is really, really good at balancing out estrogens in the body and making sure you don't have an estrogen excess, or helping skew, we have 3 different types of estrogen, helping skew metabolism from what we call dirty to clean estrogens. Obviously that's what detoxification is doing, is cleaning out, but there must be other positive benefits as well as sulforaphane. Can you list a few of those?
Well, ahead of our interview, I was reading a report last night that called sulforaphane the best naturally obtainable health supplement. In microgreens, it occurs in much greater quantities than in fully grown vegetables, and broccoli is really the star of sulforaphane in microgreens, along with the other traditional brassicas, like the cabbages and kale. But broccoli really has the densest amount of the sulforaphane compound, and really it can help with such a huge range of offer so many health benefits, from helping fight against neurodegenerative diseases, so Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. It can help promote good heart health, lower cholesterol, regulate glucose production. There have been some studies on mice, not on humans, that suggest it could help with people with depression. And also there's been a number of positive findings and studies into cancer treatment and prevention that have shown sulforaphane can have a really positive impact on the health of the patient.
That's wonderful. And they're not just rich in this wonderful sulforaphane, this antioxidant, they're also rich in other nutrients too, aren't they?
That's just one of one part of the nutritional profile of microgreens. It's difficult to list them all, but microgreens have been studied and proven to contain as much as 40 times the amount of the nutrients found in a fully grown vegetable. It's a huge amount. You have to understand that that's per weight, so matching 100 grams of broccoli to a broccoli stem with 100 grams of broccoli microgreens. And it's not possible to replace a head of broccoli with, say, 500 grams of broccoli microgreens. It'd be very, very expensive for the consumer. But having this big dose of nutrients in microgreens makes them attractive because they're so easy to add into our diets and to give you just that added boost of vitamins and minerals without much effort and much changing of your way of cooking.
These nutrients are really, really good for helping women, but they also are important for men. So maybe, Christine, is there particular nutrients here that can be helpful for men, and also because a lot of men maybe aren't so into getting their fruits and vegetables. And so maybe this could be a really easy way for them to just get a shot of vitamins and minerals kind of just thrown on top of whatever they're eating.
It's exactly the same as with the estrogen excess. Men can have estrogen excess too. I mean, we can pick up too many estrogens just from our environment. If we're drinking water from plastic bottles, for example, we're going
phthalates mimic estrogen. Right?
Exactly. And so, you know, there are young kids, young girls and boys that go through puberty much earlier. There are all sorts of issues to do with our exposure to what are called xenoestrogens, so mimicking hormones in the body, but it's not just estrogen. So these can, you know, latch onto our cells and our body and then create havoc, so upset our hormonal balance across the board. Now, of course, women have more a variation of hormones that need to be kept in check. Men's are fewer, but still their testosterone needs to be kept in check. And the nutrients also contain zinc, which is hugely important for men. And many men are deficient in zinc, especially even teenage boys. It's very, very important, but also the protein, and they have a much larger muscle mass as well. So to sometimes keep up with the amount of protein that their body requires can be difficult. And to be honest, we don't all want it from meat sources these days. And even if you do, it can be tricky. So having the microgreens as a snack, you know, carrying them around and just eating them in between meals is a wonderful way to get some extra nutrients in for them, and getting rid of the rubbish estrogens that their body might have taken in any other way.
And Elsa, are there any particular greens that you've found that are particularly high in zinc or selenium or other?
Sunflowers are one of those ones that are right up there with copper. I know if you have a 50 gram portion of sunflowers, which is really quite small. I mean, we're talking less than a cup, I think. That's 50% of your daily iron intake. So for someone like myself who's a vegetarian, that's, you know, iron is often one of the things that vegetarians struggle with, and having a really easy snack available just to give you like a little top up through the day, it makes staying on top of your health really quite easy.
Right, and it's so simple to just toss them onto anything. I mean, having a piece of toast or a salad or something, and just get the vegetables that you might not be actually eating if you're not eating your 5 a day.
I'm always quite keen to explain to people that I'm not trying to replace other fruit and vegetables with microgreens. It's an addition, you know, it's like an extra layer to your diet. And one of my 150 gram portions, it's €10 for the punnet, so it might seem expensive, €3, €3.50 per portion, per serving, but you don't have to use them in that quantity. You know, you can sprinkle a bit here, a bit there, and, you know, have that box last you a week or more.
Important for men too, and teenage boys as well.
Exactly.
Moms are making food, just throw a little extra on there and they won't even notice.
Exactly.
Even children, you know, I know that my sunflower shoots and pea shoots have been really popular with my friends, you know, toddlers, children the same age as my boys. Mine love it because I guess they see it all the time, so it's not a scary food, greens. But for children who don't really enjoy eating fruit and vegetables, something fun and cute like a pea shoot or a sunflower shoot.
And it must be so fun for a kid to nibble on a pea shoot with all of the things coming off of it. It's probably a lot easier to get them to munch on that than like a head of broccoli.
And also, again, it's down to eating real food. I mean, that's what we want to get the message across, is just eat real food.
So what kind of things can we put the microgreens on? Because if we're getting kind of like those doses each day, if we sprinkle them on different things.
Things like sunflowers, for me, they are nutritionally interesting because they contain such a high amount of plant protein and also of iron. And I'm a vegetarian, so iron and protein are one of the things I'm always looking to add to my diet.
Absolutely.
So sunflowers I mostly just eat them as a snack. but they are great just mixed into salads. You can cook with them because they're quite firm, and they hold their shape well when they're cooked. I know that Christine has used them in dressing, which I did try as well in the summer with a bit of olive oil, lemon, and a little bit of honey because I like that in the summer dressing. Is so varied. So you can cook with them, you can add them to smoothies, juices. You can just have them raw. You can use them as a garnish, which is probably where most people will recognise them from in restaurants, used as decoration. Or I prefer to use them as a salad mix. So I have a blend of brassica microgreens, broccoli, kale, cabbage, and radish that I will just use as my salad base instead of salad leaves, like spinach or rocket leaves.
That must just be a nutritional powerhouse to have a salad of all of the different mixed greens.
I mean, I'm a total convert. As soon as I tried my first batch of microgreens, I knew that there is something quite special about them, and the flavour of them is just really, really, really good.
I've actually tried a whole load of your microgreens, and actually I prefer them instead of just salad leaves. They actually make up the base of my salad rather than the salad leaves, and they're so much more nutritious, and so much so that now you're actually providing the microgreens for a couple of programs that I run, my Cleanse and Reboot, which is a detoxification one, purely because the things that you have in the nutrient mix are so stimulating for bile flow and supporting the digestive processes. So do you want to explain a little bit about the lovely cleanse mix or the nutrient mix that you have created?
Yes, well, I've kind of rejigged my nutrient mix this year to specifically suit the cleanse and the goals of your program. Radish in particular, I think, is an interesting one for stimulating the gallbladder and the other bodies of the natural detox systems. It's particularly flavorful, the radish. I really like it, but it's quite powerful and fiery. So a lot of people wouldn't want to just have a plate full of radish microgreens. So they're mixed in with the milder flavors of broccoli and kale, as well as this year green and red cabbage. I started growing those at the end of last year, and they were very quickly became one of my favorite flavors.
Yeah, and they're beautiful too.
Gorgeous colors from the red cabbage particularly, and also the radish. I grow a whole range of radish because some of them are very, very hot, some of them have more of a bitter flavor, but then they come in a beautiful range of colors as well. And I always think it's nice to have a colorful plate of food.
And that's one of the things that has made top chefs really like microgreens. And you have a few clients who are top chefs. What kind of microgreens do chefs really like because of their beauty? Because it's unfortunate that we can't show people like your flats of beautiful things because we're in the winter, but they're really, really gorgeous.
I'm starting doing my first sewing of the year next week, and I'm really impatient to get going. The chefs I worked with last year weren't really the typical microgreens consumers where they're just looking for a pretty leaf or color. They were looking for something that was flavorful, organically grown. And unfortunately, I can't call my microgreens organic officially because it's currently not possible to have that kind of certification for an indoor farm. But I try and follow organic principles wherever I can and be as ecological as I can. So that was appealing for chefs working in the same kind of mindset, and also the freshness, because I cut them the day of delivery. Same for my door-to-door consumers. I get an order, I cut it fresh. There's no waiting around. And also I offer a different range to the kind of microgreens you might see from the bigger growers. I'm quite focused on the healthier microgreens, so the broccoli, the kale, sunflowers. Amaranth also is quite interesting. That's a good one for bone health.
For bone health, that's interesting.
bone
And
health.
it's absolutely beautiful. It's like bright
It's
magenta.
gorgeous. It's a really lovely ruby red colour, and it's got a really kind of earthy, sweet taste, a little bit like beetroot, and it's a really beautiful one to grow.
Yeah. So may we ask you if you could give us a few tips for those at home who are listening to our podcast that might want to try growing some themselves? I mean, is it easy? Where do they start?
It's absolutely attainable for the home grower. And since I started microgreens, I've converted my whole family at home into microgreen growers. But you really just need like a container of any kind that's got you can put some holes at the bottom. I know my grandmother in the UK is growing them in like a tinfoil dish you might use for roasting and something in the oven. So you just have some holes at the bottom, you put one without holes underneath, fill it up with some soil and sprinkle the seeds of whatever you want to grow on the surface. A great one to start with is rocket or mustard because they're quick. And they have a lot of flavor. And then you just put them somewhere dark for a few days, moisten the surface, put them somewhere dark, and check on them after 3-4 days, and they should have started growing. Then you put them somewhere sunny, and within a week you should be able to harvest your first crop.
Great. And you actually had a wonderful tip. You did a presentation for one of my programs before where you mentioned about using an airing cupboard, which I thought was brilliant.
I do. I mean, that's what I plan on doing. That's what I'm going to have to do now because I'm starting growing quite a bit earlier than I did last year. So even though we're in the south of France and it is nice and warm, where I currently grow my microgreens, it's not heated. So it's a little bit cold for seed starting. So for my sowing, which will be in time for your cleanse and reboot program, I'm going to have to start them inside the house. Yeah. Possibly in the airing cupboard, or depending on how many orders I get, I might have to take over this bedroom. But it's a really easy and quite addictive thing to grow. I mean, once you realize that it only takes 5 minutes for you to grow enough for a meal for 1 or 2, depending on how much how big your container is, you realize how easy it is. And how rewarding it is to be able to just grow something on your windowsill. And
so it's a lovely thing for families to do with their kids as well, I'd imagine, just to see that growth that happens so quickly, because normally you plant bulbs and you have to wait months to see anything. Yeah. So nice little thing to do.
It gives you, for me personally, it gives me a really that's like a hit of happiness in the morning when I would go into my grow room and see all these small seedlings that have just popped up overnight. And
it must be exciting.
It's really exciting.
I was just thinking it'd be quite fascinating to put it on one of those time lapse and just film the actual growth.
I did a short reel on my nursery Instagram account of the 7 days of mustard seeds, from just setting out the soil, tossing the seeds on, putting them in the dark and then under the lights. And it really can be that quick if you've got the right kind of environment.
It's wonderful. So where can people actually follow you now that you've just mentioned your Instagram account? Where can they find you?
I'm the most active on Instagram, and my handle is the Nursery Greens. And I've also got a Facebook account. Or people can email me at hello@thenursery.fr if they've got any specific questions or don't really know where to start with microgreens.
Once you get started again with the season, where can they pick up your greens fresh?
At the moment, I just have collections from my house, Christine's studio several days a week, and also I'm hoping to be in Valbonne on a Friday morning for people who want to come and collect.
And that's up in the upper parking lot area in Valbonne?
Yeah, I think that I would love to be on a market stand, but still I'm going to have to wait until my boys are a bit bigger before I can do that. So at the moment, I'm organise a rendezvous pickup point in Valbonne and people come and collect from me.
So then the best way is to call or send you a message and order it. And how much time do people need ahead of time to order? Because it's not 24 hours in advance, no. It's a bit longer.
No, ideally I like 10 days in advance. In the summer, I just grew as much as I could, and anything that I didn't sell, we ate it at home. This year I'm hoping to be a bit more organised, and I am ideally 10 days lawning is the best for me, because it does take time.
Yeah, especially if it's a custom order, you need to sow the seeds, wait for them to plant. And
I also had some clients who, most of my microgreens, I sell them harvested or cut, packaged in a bioplastic punnet. But some clients preferred their microgreens live or living, still rooted in the soil, in which case I would grow a tray specifically for them. And they pick it up on an agreed day and give me the trays back the next time. So for that, if people prefer that, then I really do need the warning in advance.
You mentioned obviously eating them as a salad, and we've mentioned also making them into dressings. How else, for those at home, might you utilize the microgreens to make them easy to get in on a daily basis?
One of the easiest ways to add microgreens to your diet is in your cooking. So you would use them as you would any other vegetable. Pea shoots, for me, are particularly good in stir fries because they hold their shape, and you still get that crunch that you might get from a bean sprout or something like that. You can also just chuck them in your juices and soups. Something like radish is still going to give you a good hit of flavour. But my personal preference is to either eat them just as a snack for the bigger ones like sunflowers and peas, or raw.
Christine, this might be a question for you. Because a lot of things maybe are heat affected, certain enzymes and things that are in it. Would you say that it's best to keep them raw? Some of the stronger ones hold up to cooking, but maybe to get the full nutritional benefit?
Exactly. You would destroy some of the nutrients through heat, but the best thing to do is actually then with the stir fry, for example, is to put them in very close to serving the dish. So the vegetables are actually cooked first, and then you just mix them in at the very end. So they're having minimal heat exposure, but they're still adding the flavour to the dish. And it's the same with soups. It's always, warm up the soup first and then add the sprouts afterwards. So you're actually maintaining the nutritional benefits from them.
I have to say, when you mentioned pea shoots, and I hadn't eaten pea shoots before until I had gotten them from you, and they were so incredible. I absolutely loved them. So crunchy. And then the little tendrils that come out and these little spirals, they're absolutely beautiful.
If you were to pick peas straight from your garden, that's the flavor that they give me.
Yeah, it's delightful. It's really, really good. I put them on my avocado toast and it was just beautiful.
Well, yeah, even the tendrils, they're pretty, but they're also fibrous, so many benefits of eating them, far beyond just tasting good and looking good. They really have quite a lot to offer. They're a really, really versatile ingredient.
Yeah, and wonderful for vegans and vegetarians because they are rich in protein too. So
exactly, that's what really interests me. During last summer, I was eating a portion of sunflower shoots almost every day, and I think I saw a good. I had good rewards from it. I think I just had a baby and my skin was good. I didn't have any postpartum hair loss compared to my first child. So for me, I really saw some first-hand benefits of eating microgreens within a couple of months.
That's a really good example of how much they can help, because you had a baby before starting the microgreens and then after being on them. So were there other things you noticed other than
I was going through the baby hair stage again, and it just didn't happen this time. So I can only assume that having a better diet and a more varied diet helped me this time around.
Yeah, I would actually really encourage women that have just given birth to have the microgreens, because they're often nutriently depleted, having carried a baby and then giving birth. And it's very difficult sometimes to have time to make proper meals. So the microgreens is just so easy to throw on a piece of bread or throw in a smoothie or whatever you're getting to eat by themselves.
If you're cooking food like normal everyday things, especially if you're working and you don't have time, it's really hard to get that amount of nutrients that can be so easily gotten in the microgreens.
Yeah, so it's just so nice to have something easy in the fridge that you can just snack on. Like so the sunflowers were great for me. I have clients who would buy a whole tray and it would last them a good week. Taking a handful here and there, and as they got longer, and not so sweet anymore, using them in their cooking. So they can be adapted to your needs, really.
Yeah. And getting back, you just mentioned a handful. I would actually say that sort of 1 cup or a good handful of microgreens a day is actually really supportive for health long term. So if people are wondering how many of the microgreens they should be eating, if they can get up to a cup a day, that is very, very beneficial.
Exactly. That's actually one of the reasons I decided to sell my Nutria Mix in a 150 gram format, because you get 3 decent portions out of that 150 grams. So you could go all out and mix it all into one big salad, or spread it out over the course of a few days. You might want to eat them fresh at a salad first, and then maybe have them in a juice or a soup later on in the week, because they can last up to 7 days in the fridge if they're kept in a sealed box. So they've got some longevity.
And some of the more durable ones, like the sunflower pea shoots, maybe even longer, because mine lasted. I was surprised at how long they lasted.
Yeah, pea shoots. I trialed them in the fridge just to see how long they could last, and I had some that went over 2 weeks, and they were still almost perfect. So if you keep them in a sealed container, I sell them in these little corn plastic punnets. They do really well, but if you want them to go on and on and on, you can transfer them into a proper airtight container in your fridge, and they could last a week to 2.
And where might people
But who would let them last that long? Because they're so good.
And where might people get hold of these corn containers from? Is it something you order online, or can you buy them locally?
The punnets that I use, I sourced online. It's from a company called Vegware. I think it's a UK-based company, but they have European distribution. I was really looking for something that was compostable in a home compost system, and no plastic. So for me, these are the right solution at the moment. In the future, I'm open to all options for packaging, as long as it's eco-friendly. So ideally, I would like something people can just chuck their compost and add extra benefit to their garden. I composted several of the boxes last summer in my garden, and I checked about a month ago to see how they were doing, and I couldn't actually find them. So I think that they've gone.
That's impressive.
It is. I wasn't really sure how they would do, because I've looked into them, and I think they needed 50 degrees or something to properly break down, but we do have very hot summers, so.
Wow, that's great. Also, I want to say, for anyone who is not local, you should still follow the Nursery Greens Facebook page or Instagram, because the photos are beautiful. And you also post a lot of nutritional information on your page. So it's just great to follow anyway, especially if you're interested in learning more about microgreens.
Thank you. Yeah, I do enjoy sharing my recipes. I'm not a chef. I'm home cook. I cook for myself and for my family.
No, but you have beautiful dishes that you make too, when you make salads or pestos.
I'm really passionate about homegrown produce. It goes beyond the Nursery Greens. I try and spend an hour to 2 hours a day outside in my garden, but that really is it's my passion. And before microgreens, I was scratching my head thinking, how can I turn this love of growing into a business? And not everyone has a garden, and I totally understand that. But for microgreens, you really need the space of a lunchbox to grow yourself some great food.
Yeah, that's great.
And that's
I think it's an inspiration for people to get into it too.
So it's not just nutritionally valuable products, but also very sustainable. So you're looking after the body and the planet at the same time, which is great.
Exactly, sustainable and good for your mind. I just, it makes me so happy in the morning to go and see all the microgreens growing and doing well. Same as going outside and getting fresh air. It's just one of those. It's one of those things. I can't explain it, but it's great.
It's therapy. It's natural therapy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And then if someone is growing a flat of microgreens, once they harvest them, they don't need to throw away everything. It can be composted into itself, right?
Exactly. I mean, if you saw my garden, there are things popping up all over the place. I mean, it's not like I've got a problem with weeds. No, I have a problem with kale plants and broccoli plants in my flower beds, because I empty out the soil that I've used onto either into the compost or onto my garden beds, and I've just got things everywhere.
And the plant will continue to grow, and so it just pops up.
Exactly. I tried for quite a while to grow a head of broccoli, and I've had no luck at all. And then I noticed the other day that there is almost a fully grown broccoli growing in one of my flower beds, where I must have picked out some broccoli microgreens.
That's
wonderful.
All right. Well, so we've talked about your business. Now we come to the part where we have some Nourishing Bites questions that we'd like to ask our guests. So what has been the biggest life lesson after you've started this whole business? And it's been a short time, because your business just blossomed literally so quickly. What have you learned from this experience?
Yeah, it was a lot more. My microgreens were a lot more popular than I was really anticipating. For me, I started off thinking, kind of like, I don't want to call it a hobby business, because I was obviously taking it very seriously. We converted a part of our house into a growing room, and I dedicated a lot of time to researching microgreens before I started. But I was just kind of testing the water to see how much interest there would be. So I would, a life lesson is have a bit of trust. I didn't know how they were going to go. I didn't know how I would be able to manage it all, because I had I think my youngest was 3 months when I started. Mm-hmm. So, I didn't know how much time I was going to have, but for me, it was a great kickstart. It gave me like an extra purpose. I really enjoyed having, an hour or two a day at the start, just to focus on a nice task like growing and sowing seeds. It's really good personally. I really enjoy it. So yeah, to have a bit of faith that your project can work.
Yeah. And it's amazing too, because you started this business as a new mother, and so you were able to create this throughout that. That's fabulous.
Yeah, thankfully he was a really good sleeper at the start. And
That's always helpful.
I think he enjoyed being in the nice, warm, dark space of the grow room. So for the first few months at least, and then as soon as he started moving, I had to change my working hours.
Wonderful. So also, Elsa, is there a saying or a quote that resonates with you that you may have heard and that has helped you throughout your life? For example, I have one that's fill the fear and do it anyway, which is a bit like what you were saying before about following through with your passion. And that's always helped me carry things through, because it can be nerve-wracking, both stepping out and doing something by yourself and not knowing whether you're going to fall flat on your face or you're going to, be running through the finish line. So is there anything that has helped you or guided you?
I would say, making the best decisions for you. I really enjoyed last year, but it was also quite a hectic year with 2 small children and a new business. And so this year I've taken the last couple of months to have a proper think about what I want out of the business, and the products I want to be offering people, the quality of products I want to be offering people, and have decided to adapt my business, I guess, to suit me best. And to ensure that my clients are getting, high quality vegetables that haven't been rushed, haven't spent, excess time under lights, because that adds stress to plants. If I try and push through a crop, I don't get the quality crop I would get if I just let them do their own thing naturally. And that applies to me, I guess.
And that's a really, really good point. And I think it's so important for so many people, especially women, to put yourself first and make it the choices that work for you. Because if you're constantly running after and trying to please all the different requests that you might get, which could be unlimited, then your quality falls behind. Yes, that's a really, really good point.
Yeah, quality and happiness. I want to enjoy my work, and I do enjoy it, but obviously when you're trying to getting up before sunrise and going to bed like long after everybody else in the house. That's not ideal. So better balance and better balance and best quality.
To go back and say, because I said new mother, but we should also mention you already had a child. So you had 2 kids when you're starting this business. So it's just amazing that you've been able to do this. And also, as you said, doing what works for you in your time and finding the balance really was the important part.
Yeah, well, thankfully I have a baby who likes his sleep and a 3-year-old who really likes the garden. So this year I'm hoping I can train him up to do some of the watering.
Yeah, get him working.
I already have him out in the garden. He's great at weeding. So I just got to change his skills and maybe he can help me.
Wonderful. So it's going to be a big family enterprise like that.
That would be great. Having two extra pairs of helping hands.
That's great. So what has influenced you? We talked about, making sure that you find balance and do what works for you, but is there someone or some thought process that really influenced you along the way?
I think I really respect people who I respect people who take decisions for the better of themselves. My youngest sister was a professional athlete and was really at the top of her career, and she was finding the whole thing far too stressful, wasn't enjoying her sport anymore, and decided to retire and go on a different path. And now she's kind of setting herself up as a geologist, kind of explorer, goes on these amazing trips. And really, that was a decision for her. She could have continued in her career and she was right at the very top, but she wasn't enjoying it. So I think, people say, to risk it all. I really think, you don't have to have it all. You just, you do what you personally want and try not to, you don't have anyone to please apart from yourself, really.
Yeah, it's about finding your passion, isn't it? And just following through with that.
What you enjoy and not feeling responsible for what other people want from you.
Yeah, it's so important. Listen up, everybody.
Yeah. No, it is. And some people are so nervous, concerned about sort of saying no to things that aren't supportive to them. But actually it's so detrimental on their health.
Yeah, I mean, everyone I'm sure can relate to the feeling of not wanting to let other people down. And it's a fine line, isn't it, between making everyone else happy and making yourself.
It's lovely that it's your sister that's been a great influence to you.
Well, I mean, so she I think it took her a long time to come to that decision, and when she did, I know she felt better.
That's a massive decision to make.
Especially when she's been the top of her game and then she's stepping down. It's a very, very difficult decision. So hats off to her.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what's next for you then, Elsa? I mean, you have expanded a little bit about maybe when you've got your youngest being looked after that you might want to develop a bit more. Is that where you see your business growing in the future?
Yes. So last year, my first year was very much learning about my business, learning who is my customer, what kind of market was I going for. And I think that the people I want to be serving are those who are interested in their health. So I'm not interested in selling huge quantities to restaurants. Obviously, I appreciated the support from chefs, but for me, microgreens are far more than just a garnish. So it was about deciding that this year. I've changed some of my methods a little bit to be more efficient. I learned a lot in the last year, and I hope in the future to expand my business. Currently, it's at home. I would perhaps look at growing outside in my garden. I've got a great garden for growing, or in a more commercial setting. I'm not really sure. I'm trying to figure it out. Well, I've got one. My son is in. My 3-year-old is at school now. From September, my youngest will start nursery, and then I'll have a bit more time on my hands to figure out where I want to take the business. all kinds. I'm interested in a whole range of possibilities, from edible flowers to the more aromatic microgreens like coriander, parsley, that take a very long time to grow. And currently my little space, I just haven't got room for them, but in the future.
Well, we look forward to it.
Yeah, we very much look forward to seeing it grow and develop. I actually have a little idea for you as well, which I'll have to speak to you about at some point.
Well, thank you so much for joining us on our very first podcast. I'm glad you were our first guest.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.